nutrition isn't static, metabolism isn't static, body type and metabolism is not fair. People are looking for, well, how many calories a day do I need to eat to lose weight? Or how many grams of carbohydrates? Or how many times a day should I eat? Those are all the little details. The main entree is, what is your body currently used to?
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of SPARTAN Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today. Meet your summer sidekick, the new Fide Hawaiian Nectar. Classic Fide in the new limited edition flavor for summer. Want 20% off plus free shipping? Visit lifeaidbevco.com and enter code SPARTAN20 at checkout to get 20% off Fide. Always naturally sweetened, will never contain any aspartame or sucralose.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Hard Way podcast. I've got a buddy of mine, Angelo Poli. He is a metabolism expert and one of the founders of a company called MetPro. How important is it, Angelo, that we think about and pay attention to our metabolism?
Well, maybe I'm biased, seeing as how it's somewhat my life's work. I think it's pretty important, Joe.
Yeah.
You know, most people that reach out to us are doing so because they're looking to get, whether it's their athletic ability, their health, their head in a better spot, in a healthier place, and often the missing link is optimizing their metabolism. The real, not the gimmicky way, not the, take this supplement and all of a sudden all your metabolism is going to run No, I mean the hard work way. But if you're going to work hard with the right science, that's what we help our clients to do at MetPro for 20 years. And we've seen a lot of challenging circumstances. We have a lot of fun helping people get to that next level. So I would say it is the most overlooked element of transformations, wellness, and most certainly weight loss, if that's among your goals, is understanding and managing your metabolism. So I'd say very, very important, Joe.
When I think about my metabolism, first of all, is it fair to say metabolism is basically your furnace, your ability to process food and burn calories?
Yeah, in fact, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Not to be confused with another accurate description of metabolism or metabolic processes that has to do with glucose and blood sugar levels and metabolic rates in that area. What I'm talking about is the guy that is, watching the BMI index, doing the exercise, looking at the calories burned on the treadmill and scratching his head going, why does this math not add up? That's what I'm talking about. Your furnace and how it actually adapts and changes based on our environment and how we're training, how we're eating.
And I think back when I was doing crazy races, I could consume unlimited amounts of food for 2 to 3 weeks after an event like that. And I was still losing weight. The furnace was burning so hot.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine if I just continually, let's say I hiked 12 hours a day every day. I didn't have to work and I just was out in the mountains.
Sure.
I hiked every day. Eventually your body probably would slow the furnace down, I would think, because you just can't live consuming all that food. Is that
correct? In fact, that's a pretty good segue into what I do on a lot of these. When I do seminars and podcasts like this, I like to take people through a kind of a mental experiment, shall we say, because I tell people some of the science we use and some of it may seem radical. But I can prove it in just a few short minutes. Could I take you through an experiment to show how the metabolism can actually be controlled?
Sure.
So what most people are taught is that your metabolism is a product of your genetics, your gender, your muscle mass, etc., and exclusively that. Those things are a factor. All of those play a role. But believe it or not, the number one thing that our metabolism will adapt to is our environment, our nutritional environment, because your metabolism has one priority that outranks everything else that it does, and that is to keep you alive. That's exactly what you just described, Joe. So to prove that point, if we were to take 100 people and drop them off on a deserted island somewhere and leave them there for a year. Now, Joe, we're grabbing big people, little people, men, women, young, old, every demographic. We're just leaving them on this stranded island and we're feeding them rations. What's a low caloric intake? Pick it. What do you think, Joe?
600 calories a day.
Okay, that's really low. But yes, even 600 calories a day. That'll be a dramatic conclusion of this experiment. Here's my question. Let's say 800. Let's bring it up by 200. 800 calories a day. We put them on rations for a year, 800 calories a day. Will they die? What would you say?
No, I've been there, and I would assume that the body would slow the furnace down and figure out a way to survive on 800 calories a day.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Joe. And the research bears that out. They've put these, oxygen hyperbaric chambers, doubly labeled water. They've run all these tests and controlled. Your metabolism will not only acclimate, but it does so shockingly fast. That's what people don't realize. And so, no, they wouldn't die. Now, they might wish they were dead. They certainly aren't going to thrive. But the sad reality is there are countries around the world that exist on barely 800 calories a day. So they are certainly not thriving, but the body will find a way to keep them alive unless there's secondary medical issues. So that is proof that at some point, here's what that means. Those individuals that got left on that island at some point will have to stop losing weight. Now they'll lose weight. You might have a big guy, 300-pound guy, Ed the piano mover. He might dump 120 pounds, but at some point he's going to stop losing weight, because if he doesn't stop losing weight, he dies. The metabolism will work very hard to prevent that from happening. So it's proof that our metabolic rate can acclimate to our environment. We can actually slow it down. A year later, those 100 people are rescued. They all come off the island burning exactly 800 calories a day. Otherwise, they don't come off the island. Now, here's why I share that illustration. I've never had a single person debate that. Everyone has experienced the process of their metabolism acclimating and slowing down at some point in their life, so they can relate to that. But what if I were to tell you, Joe, that for those who don't have a fast metabolism, you can also condition it to run faster based on your food? Now, we know we can use exercise to do that. What's our other lever? Our other lever is actually our intake. I can prove that as well.
Well, I would imagine, as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about my own experience on the planet and the island and the snow, right? I'm imagining that there's a band. Once you go past the band, I would imagine the metabolism just can't deal with it anymore, and you start growing.
Yes.
Because that's what I see around me in airports and at Disneyland, and you, right?
Yep, precisely. So let me show you how it works in the opposite direction. So I'll give you a real life example, because I've done this in podcasts a number of times. I've done hundreds of these seminars, and what I'll usually do when I have a live audience is I'll pick one of the gals out of the audience that looks like she exercises, maybe a petite lady who will share with me her exercise routine, her diet. And so let's call her Julie for the sake of this illustration. I'll ask Julie, I say, okay, Julie, you're how old? 45 years old, whatever. How much do you weigh? I weigh 130 pounds. How much do you exercise? We'll go through the whole 9 yards, and I'll say, okay, Julie, you're the expert on your body. You've been living there for 40 years. What would happen if you were to add a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream every night before you go to bed at night? I've asked hundreds of women this question. I've done this seminar hundreds of times, and here's what happens every time. The audience chuckles and laughs, and she'll usually make a comment like, well, I'd be happy. And then she said, well, I'll gain weight. Of course, we gain weight. How much? How much weight? So how much weight will you gain in a month? What do you think, Joe? How much weight would Julie gain in a month? She adds a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream every night for 30 days.
I think she's going to gain 5-6 pounds, I think.
Yep. So invariably, I will get the response 5 to 15 pounds is what Julie or whoever this woman that I'm asking will tell me. And these are just people who have life experience. Now, this is what I do day in and day out. I evaluate metabolisms. I help people lose weight, gain weight, optimize performance. I can tell you that's exactly what would happen. She probably gained 5 to 15 pounds. Now, stay with me here on this because this is going to get a little crazy. What would happen if Julie kept eating that pint of Haagen-Dazs for a year? How much weight would she gain? What do you think she'd gain in a year?
I think she might, based on the way you're asking the question and the conversation we've been having, she might actually start to lose a little bit of weight. Maybe the body would adapt.
So what would likely happen is you're right about the body would adapt. She's not going to lose weight, not if she's adding that Haagen-Dazs ice cream every night. But here's what most women would tell me. Now, this number ranges a little more, but usually they'll say, I would gain between 20 and 30 pounds over the course of the year. Trust me, she's not going to be happy about that. That's not 20, 30 pounds of muscle she's putting on. That's 20, 30 pounds of body fat in places she probably doesn't want it. But we have a math problem now. We have a serious math problem. So here's what our current understanding of science dictates. They tell us that there's 3,500 calories in 1 pound of body fat. That is technically accurate. There's some nuance to it, but for the sake of our conversation. So a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, I use that in my illustrations because it's 1,000 calories, easy math. That's 7,000 calories a week. That should be 2 pounds a week, Joe. 52 weeks in a year. Now, I've given this lecture at UCSF, at hospitals, at colleges. I've given it to a room of nothing but neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons, and I've said, raise your hand if you think Julie will gain 104 pounds. And there has never in my 20 years in this business been a taker. Never. Everyone knows that won't happen. So here's what, if you agree with that, if you're listening at home, if you agree with that, here's what you're agreeing to. Haagen-Dazs ice cream speeds your metabolism because that is the only way she would not gain more than 20 or 30 pounds. Her metabolic rate is actually acclimating to it.
Assuming nothing else in her life changes. She doesn't start running
Correct.
10 miles. Right.
Correct. Yes. So I use that to be thought-provoking, to be memorable. Don't go home and say, Angelo said eat ice cream to speed my metabolism. That's not the take-home message. The take-home message is you have the power to condition your metabolism to run where you want it. So before we founded MetPro, which is short for Metabolic Profiling, that's our process of identifying where someone's metabolism is at. I was just a personal trainer. I'm nothing to scream and holler about, but I was very passionate. I had my own journey. When I was very young, in my early 20s, I destroyed my low back, walked with a cane for 10 years, had to find a way back, and I didn't want to leave the fitness industry. I didn't want to leave the wellness industry. And so, to be blunt, in order to pay the bills, I needed to deliver my clients' results. Now, what do you think the number one request was? People come to me, hire me to help them with their fitness. What do you think the number one goal was?
I have to assume lose weight.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about the virtues of exercise, for hours. You have to do it. You just have to do it. Here's a quick side note. I am a nutritionist. I sell nutrition. And people ask me all the time, do I have to exercise? The answer is yes, you do. And here's why. You can lose weight with diet alone. You'll never keep it off because your metabolism won't. Now, here's the good news. It doesn't mean that you have to become an Olympic lifter tomorrow. It means you have to start. You have to take those first steps. Find what is intense for you. Start that. Okay. I digress. We'll come back to that. In order to get my clients results, I had multiple gyms. I ran programs from multiple programs that had lots of personal trainers working with clients. These are people that are exercising, but they weren't seeing all the results they wanted until we took care of the nutrition. But here's what I learned. Nutrition isn't static. Metabolism isn't static. Body type and metabolism is not fair. I'm going to repeat that again. I've dieted 20,000 people in my career. There is nothing fair about metabolism. Now, if I lie, how much do you weigh, Joe?
180.
So, and how tall are you?
5'10".
Okay. So if I line up 10 guys, 5'10", 180, and I baseline test, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what baseline testing is, but I baseline test 10 guys, 5'10", 180, basically where we monitor their intake. We identify exactly what the caloric intake is, macronutrient ratios, glycemic load, timing, meal, and energy expenditure. The whole 9 yards, which, by the way, is not as hard as you'd think. We monitor it. You know what those 10 guys will have in common as far as what creates homeostasis for each one of them?
No.
Absolutely nothing. That's what they'll have in common. Absolutely nothing. And that just fascinated me. It just boggled my... I could have one guy who is consuming 3,800 calories and maintaining his weight. I could have another guy consuming 1,700 and maintaining his weight. There is nothing fair about metabolism. What we need to know is we need to know where we're starting. And that is fundamentally the problem with all the programs out there, all the gurus out there, all the experts who are a lot smarter than me. I'm not saying they don't have good science. It's that when you hear something that's good, you have to have context in order for it to be applicable. In other words, do this, this, and this. This is good. Well, is it good for everyone? It depends on where you're starting. So, for example, at MetPro, what we do when somebody starts working with us, the first thing we do is we take them through a 72-hour baseline test. Now, those of you fitness gurus out there, nutritionists, dietitian, and individuals who actually know what baseline testing is, are gonna, don't write in emails and say 72 hours. That's not long enough. We actually have done the math. We started at 7 days. 7 days. Then we compared it against 5 days, and we found that we got about 93% the same result. So in other words, it was only 7% less inaccurate. Then we went to 3 days, and it only dropped down by another 15% inaccurate. Then we went to 2 days, and accuracy just fell off the map. Just horrible. 3 days is the least amount of time where I can get actionable data on someone's metabolism worthy of making a recommendation of increasing or decreasing intake for any particular meal. That doesn't mean it's the end all be all. We're going to continue evaluating ongoing, but at 72 hours, if I have enough quality data, I can start to make my first recommendation with it being justified. So we baseline test 72 hours. I see where somebody's metabolic rate is. That's keeping them in homeostasis. In other words, they're neither gaining nor losing weight. Now I know what I have to work with. And if you do that, it answers the nagging questions. You know what those nagging questions are? I'll just give you one classic example. Should I count calories or cut carbs? Yeah, anyone ever ask you that, Joe?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Everyone. There are people that are staunch. No, it's this way. Calories. No, it's carbs. You know what the problem is? They're both right.
Classic Fide, new summer edition flavor. Hawaiian Nectar is a summer vacation for your taste buds with each sip. Take a one-way ticket to Recovery Town with this limited edition flavor. Certified non-GMO tested, vegan, paleo-friendly, certified gluten-free, kosher, and never contains any artificial flavors or sweeteners. The Fide Recovery Blend features glutamine, glucosamine, turmeric, BCAAs, omega-3s, CoQ10, full B complex, and electrolytes. Perfect for after the race, gym, hiking, or biking. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and enter code SPARTAN20 at checkout to get 20% off. Fide Hawaiian Nectar plus free shipping. Fide, an official partner of the Spartan Race Series.
The question is, where do you have the most leverage? Let me tell you, that client that comes back to me after baseline testing, if I find that he's eating 1,700 calories and not losing weight, I have no leverage to manipulate his calories to effect any sort of weight loss. So you better believe it has to be macronutrient manipulation. Now, someone comes back to me and he has eating moderate to low carb, but he's eating 3,200 calories. Guess what? I got tons of leverage. I'm going to use calories, not carbohydrates. So it's never a matter of what's right or what's wrong, what's better, it's a matter of what's applicable to your body. And here's the big secret, and this is what our coaches at MetPro try and they drill into their clients. It's not about the scale today or tomorrow. It's about long-term success. And here's what's going to dictate that, whatever your goal is. Contrast. It's about contrast. In other words, people are looking for, well, how many calories a day do I need to eat to lose weight? Or how many grams of carbohydrates? Or how many times a day should I eat? Those are all the little details. The main entree is, what is your body currently used to? If the delta of change is big enough, if the magnitude of adjustment is big enough, you can guarantee you will see weight loss if weight loss is your goal, or going the other way, muscle development if weight gain is your goal, or whatever your athletic preference is. If you baseline test and we actually track your numbers and your metabolism, we can establish what the best next steps are for you. And so that's what we do with our clients, Joe, and it's a blast. We love it. It's a blast.
And it actually makes sense. I mean, my mom was pushing in the 70s, the cold plunges, the yoga, the meditation, the running, the sweating. And now the science seems to be catching up with what seemed to be a very hippie approach to life. And if you think about all the science, well, cold water is good for you. Sweating is good for you. Intermittent fasting is good for you. And I think when you look deep at each one of those, it's the contrast. It's the word you use. Right? That's the really good thing. It's the shock to the body. Yep. And so, so that's really interesting, because when I think about my boys, I have 2 boys, 2 girls. They wrestle hard pretty much every day. I mean, it's 100 degrees in the room. They're sweating. And
how old are the boys?
17 and 15.
Okay.
And their bodies got used to it.
Yep.
Their metabolism got used to it. And so, and I'm a bit of a wimp in that I do my workouts every day, but I like to do the same thing every day because my body acclimatizes to it. And I've said to some high-level athletes, I said, I think you need to mix it up, because when I see you wrestle or play soccer or whatever, I don't think you're exerting as much effort as the person that just got on the field is. I think your body has figured out how to make it easy.
Yeah. What you just said, Joe, is an old principle that the bodybuilding community learned years ago, back in the Joe Weider days, and that muscle confusion, specificity, and that adaptive process, applying new stress on the body. So that's where my background is. 15 plus years ago, I coached athletes for physique sports, and so I didn't invent any of this stuff, Joe. I'm not that smart, but I do think we've carved out a pretty nice niche in helping people apply the science. So what people in the bodybuilding sport does, and by the way, there's not that many people coming to me these days saying, help me be a bodybuilder, but I will illustrate how the sport worked. They would need to tow their metabolism up enough to create contrast. So I would get people that would come up to me every year at whatever competitions we were at. Mr. Poli, oh, your athletes look great. Boy, that athlete on stage, it's like, and then the question, what do you have them eating? And, I would try and have a good sense of humor about it, tease people a little. I'd give the tongue-in-cheek answer, a boiled chicken and broccoli, and it's like, and then they'd always say, I'd wait for it, because they'd always say it. They said, well, if I eat that, would I look like them? Nope. And here's why. Here's why you can eat exactly what that bodybuilder eats and still not look like them, though it might take you a few steps in that direction. Is because what you don't know is that bodybuilder who's sitting on stage, male or female, at 3.5% body fat. During their off season, what I did was I had them increase, not blatantly, not without consistency or structure, but I had them gradually and in a calculated fashion increase their intake gradually for about 3 or 4 months in their off season, where they're bulking, right? So each week they're going back to the drawing board, and I'm like, all right, Johnny, did you gain a pound? No? We're going to add another sweet potato. We're going to add another this. We're going to add another that. And then finally they gain that pound, and I say, all right, Johnny, guess what? Go burn it off. Here's the catch. You cannot burn it off eating a bite less food. You have to eat it all. Go do your run, do your cardio, do your training, burn off 1 pound, just 1 pound. And then that competitor would come back to me the next day. All right, Mr. Poli, I did it, sweating, I burned off that pound, good. Add another 6 ounces of sweet potato, another half apple, whatever, direction we're going, until we conditioned their body to where some of these guys were eating between 5,000 and 6,000 calories a day. Then I gradually over months increased their intake. When we take it out, we don't do it gradually. We take it out all at once, and the body fat melts off of them. It incinerates off of them. That's why when they start eating 2,000 calories of boiled chicken and broccoli, they end up with 3% body fat. It's not the boiled chicken and broccoli. It's the contrast between what their body was used to.
It's the same thing we do with the boys with wrestling with water. Start
Yeah.
consuming a lot of water. Start consuming a lot of water, and then we're going to shut it off. 12 hours before you weigh in, and all of a sudden the body was used to a gallon of water a day. So, yeah, it is interesting stuff, and it requires us to never be comfortable. So it really comes back to Spartan at the end of the day. Which
Tell me about it. Get moving. Got to get people moving.
You got to do the hard stuff, and as soon as you get comfortable, you got to mix it up and add that extra sweet potato and make it harder, right? Yeah. Like that's it.
Yep.
In a nutshell. All right. So for everybody out there, number one, how do they find you?
Well, thank you, Joe, for being generous with us. If they go to metpro.co/Spartan, you can actually talk with one of our specialists, a metabolism specialist, who is not just going to answer the phone. He's going to be prepared to answer some questions. He's going to take you through a little health history and ask, hey, tell us a bit about your history with fitness, with food, and we'll talk to you for a while. So if you go to metpro.co/Spartan, we'd love to visit with you.
And then let's end it with one thing everybody should be doing every day.
If you are a fly on the wall during one of our coaching calls, the single most relevant thing that you can do, if you can only do one thing, have some advanced planning. So if I'm in a room with 50 people and I want to know who's going to be successful in their journey to better health, better wellness, here's the question I'm going to ask. Raise your hand if you know what you're going to eat for lunch tomorrow. See, it's a simple mindset shift, but if you're at least willing to, at the simplest level, have some cadence of thought and preparation into what's coming next, it is so much easier to control and steer the ship towards health and performance. That's what we love helping people to do.
I love it. Don't leave it to chance.
Exactly.
Plan your success. I love it. Well, thanks for being here, and I'm sure we're going to do a lot together. I am going to go eat some sweet potatoes.
Go do it. It's been an honor. Thanks for having me.